Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moments. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Soul Land 2 Part 198 based on novel. So let's start. There was a vigorous look of passion in Shu Qianran's eyes. Yes, only I, as the Emperor of the Sun Moon Empire and future ruler of the entire continent and the entire world, wield the right to step onto the seventh platform of this Sun Moon sacrificial altar. He ascended step by step until he reached the center of the platform. When he was above the image of the sun and moon, he was completely covered in a gold and silver glow. Ring, 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 an alarm that sounded like the groan of a giant beast sounded. The ceremony had officially begun. After this, a total of 108 firecrackers were set off. The sounds of these firecrackers echoed for more than 50 kilometers. Shu Qianran, who was at the top of the altar right now, was like the ruler of the entire world right now. He opened his arms wide and peered into the sky. He basked in the sunlight, and his face was filled with pride and mightiness. Boom, 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 the booms continued to sound, but the expressions of a few people started to change. These were intelligent people. The sounds of the firecrackers seemed a little weird, they seemed a little too loud. In the distance, there appeared to be lights flashing from the east side of Radiant City. Shu Qianran didn't seem to hear anything. He continued with the ceremony. All types of sacrificial items were slowly raised along the sides of the seventh platform. These items were very specifically chosen over and over again. The firecrackers had ceased by now, but there were still booms coming from afar. Shu Qianran squinted and furrowed his brow slightly. However, he still continued with the ceremony. He gradually kneeled down and kowtowed to the heavens. He was supposed to rise after this and give a speech. After his speech, there would be a series of complicated ceremonial processes. Some of the people on the lower platforms had quietly left. They proceeded eastwards. Though the emperor couldn't personally go and find out what was happening, his subordinates could do so. The Sun Moon Empire's biggest munitions warehouse was located in the eastern suburbs. There were many stationary soul cannon shells stored in it. After they were used in the war, stationary soul cannon shells had proven themselves to be the most effective on battlefields. The main reason for this was that their effective range was considerably great. The rest of the soul tools' effective ranges were rather limited. Only stationary soul cannon shells had an effective range so great that it could cover the entire expanse of the continent, even though that was just theoretical. With their current technology, they could be fired from tens of kilometers away. They were the Sun Moon Empire's lethal weapons. Furthermore, after the previous major explosion of their warehouse in Radiant City which caused major losses to the Sun Moon Empire, how would they dare to lower their guard? Eastern suburbs. Cannon shells were fired in quick succession in the direction of the munitions warehouse. However, the weird thing was that they seemed to be fired from the void. No soul tools could be seen at all. Hui Yuhao and Tang Wutong held hands and quietly stood on the seemingly empty ground. However, the ground wasn't actually empty. 10 Zhuge divine crossbow cannons had been unleashed to their full effect under the concealment of Hui Yuhao's imitation and spiritual interference domain. The Heavenly Sun Doluo and 9 other title Doluo were standing with both of them. If not for Hui Yuhao's imitation and spiritual interference domain, the attack wouldn't have proceeded on so smoothly. However, it had indeed fooled the aerial surveillance soul tools in the sky. At least, the attack was achieving its intended effect for now. The attack was being carried out successfully, but of course it didn't cause any damage. In the distance, a bright yellow barrier engulfed the warehouse. It had been activated upon contact. When the cannon shells fired by the Zhuge divine crossbow cannons touched this barrier, only ripples were formed. Zhuge divine crossbow cannons were manufactured by the Tang sect, while the Class 4 shells that they fired were designed by Hui Yuhao. He was naturally very familiar with them. Hui Yuhao was expressionless as he stood there. He sighed in his heart. According to Du Buz's plan, he and Tang Wutong would bid goodbye to the Heavenly Sun Doluo and the rest after the first round of attacks. They had to immediately prepare for the retreat and receive those who were carrying out the real mission. The Heavenly Sun Doluo nodded at Hui Yuhao and said, "It's about time." People from the Sun Moon Empire are about to arrive. Let's make a move first. Both of you should quickly retreat. Follow the original plan. All right, elders, please take care. The heavenly Sun Dolor smiled and waved. He led the other 9 titled Dolor away. All of their bodies had an ethereal light film over them. After they exited Huiyuhao's domain and were no longer concealed by his imitation, they still needed to conceal themselves. This is? Concealment Soul Tool? Huiyuhao was a little astonished as he watched them leave. Concealment Soul Tools. I believe even the Sun Moon Empire is only in the experimental stage. I didn't expect these titled Dolor to possess them already. However, Huiyuhao was a Class 9 Soul Engineer. Very soon, he could tell what the catch was. They were indeed concealment soul tools, but it seemed like only titled Dolor could operate them from the soul power undulations that were being released. These soul tools that they were using were probably just half-finished. They could only be effectively maintained through the immense soul power undulations of titled Dolor. Compared to his own imitation, these soul tools drained much more soul power. I hope they succeed with their plan. Huiyuhao had no habit of wasting things. He quickly stopped firing the Sugar Divine crossbow cannons and put them away in his Starlight Sapphire ring. A cold look also surfaced on his face. The Sun Moon Empire reacts very quickly indeed. Their people are here after just a few attacks. A massive silver web suddenly appeared in the clear sky. It wasn't a real web, but was formed using energy. It covered several thousands of square meters, and it was quickly engulfing Huiyuhao and Tang Wutong. It was capturing type-linked soul tool. The Sun Moon Empire indeed has all kinds of powerful soul tools. Huiyuhao was only able to think of this because he was composed enough. He grabbed Tang Wutong's hand tightly, and blinding silver light instantly shone from their backs. At this instant, a deafening boom resonated through the air. Following this, both of them turned into 2 beams of flowing light and quickly shot into the distance. They were simply too quick. They were so quick that Huiyuhao was unable to maintain his imitation and domain. He had to fully focus his attention on protecting his body. However, this extreme speed enabled both of them to quickly flee from the engulfing web. Following this, a series of tremendous booms rang out from beneath the web. It was the high-explosive bomb that Huiyuhao had left behind. The extreme temperature generated from the bomb was enough to wipe away any traces of them ever being there. Silver lights flashed in the sky, and were naturally captured by the aerial surveillance soul tools in the air. However, Huiyuhao wasn't worried at all. This was because they were already so quick that they were no longer afraid of being chased by any soldiers. They overcame the sound barrier as they traveled at supersonic speed. In an instant, they covered more than 50 kilometers. No matter how well-equipped the Sun Moon Empire was in terms of aerial surveillance soul tools, they could only install these soul tools in and around Radiant City. They couldn't possibly cover the entire region. This was why Huiyuhao and Tang Wutong were completely out of the range of the aerial surveillance soul tools in just a matter of moments. When they slowed down, Huiyuhao used his imitation to conceal both of them again. Huiyuhao peered into the distance as he landed on a mountain. However, he wasn't looking at the eastern suburbs, but the southern suburbs where the grand sacrificial ceremony was taking place. I wonder how the body Dolor and the rest are doing. The booms from the eastern suburbs had ceased after some time. Xu Qian ran out again after he finished reciting his speech. At this moment, a weird aura could be felt in the air. The sky also turned ridiculously dark. The originally bright sunlight was blocked off by gloomy clouds. The Sun-Moon sacrificial altar also turned dimmer instantly. The entire sky descended into darkness as the millions of citizens watched. Suddenly, the people began to feel terrified. Xu Qianran finally turned grim. This ceremony was chosen to be held on this auspicious day, which was determined after many rounds of verification. The gloomy clouds were certainly not a natural phenomenon. If it wasn't natural, it had to be the doing of humans. Xu Qianran, you are too ambitious. The heavens cannot stand you. I'll perform justice on behalf of the heavens today and deal with you. Vigorous sound waves sounded in the air. Everyone could clearly hear the words. Xu Qianran stood straight and coldly looked into the sky. In the sky, a giant that resembled a god tore the gloomy clouds apart and walked out. This giant was more than 100 feet tall, and was completely jade green. There was even a purple fog surrounding him. Wasn't he the body Dolor, Dubuzi? Xu Qianran coldly said, demonic arts. How dare you disrupt today's ceremony? Today, I shall you use your blood to pay respects to the heavens. I'll kill you, you demonic creature. As he shouted, more than 10 figures rose into the sky. Following this, a golden glow rose from the sides of the altar. It turned into a huge barrier that completely engulfed the altar. There were many imperial family members and senior officials from the Sun Moon Empire on the altar. Xu Qianran was wary as they faced Dubuzi, who was almost an ultimate Dolor. He couldn't afford to lose anyone here. And yet, he didn't really regard Dubuzi very highly. Boom! Tremendous booms sounded from the four corners. Tragic screams and cries were immediately heard. This time, Xu Qianran's expression changed. He was horrified as he roared, Dubuzi, how dare you disregard the principles of soul masters and let your men lay their hands on ordinary people? There were millions of citizens here. The amount of destruction that could be caused was terrifying. My empire has fallen, and my sect is on the brink of collapse. What principles do I still have to adhere to? The body sect has never had principles before either. If we are punished by the heavens, I'll shoulder all the punishment. Ha 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 ha. Dubuzi laughed maniacally. He lifted his hands, and a terrifying aura was exuded from his body. It turned into a form of power that suppressed the 10 figures that were rising up. At this moment, the gloomy clouds in the sky started to shake. A long sigh sounded. Old Du, why do you have to do this? Dubuzi focused his gaze. I knew you would come. What about that lass? Ask her along as well. A figure silently appeared in the air. He was dressed in a black robe, and his white hair flowed freely. He was drifting high up in the sky, and had no intention of backing away. Any form of power that attempted to reach him was easily overcome by an invisible force. Nothing could come within 3 feet of him. The darkness holy dragon, the dragon god Dolor Long Xiaoyao, who was a true ultimate Dolor, had finally appeared. Long Xiaoyao sighed and said, Dubuzi, leave. You can still leave now. I wouldn't have appeared if you didn't lay your hands on the ordinary citizens. If you massacre lives, you'll be filled with vengeance and you'll never reincarnate. Dubuzi laughed maniacally and said, ha ha ha, this is funny. This is too funny. You're such a hypocrite. How dare you talk about massacring lives in front of me? You are in cahoots with them. How is it that you have the cheek to admonish me? Although Mu En is a big enemy of my sect, I respect him a lot. He protected Shrek City. What about you? For a woman, you are willing to work with evil soul masters. If Mu En were still alive, he'd definitely be ashamed to be mentioned in the same breath as you. The killings had already begun around the altar. They weren't just ordinary soul masters. They were transcendent Dolor. They had hidden themselves among the crowd, and were now starting to become violent. Their violence turned the entire venue into a river of blood. Even though powerful individuals from the Sun Moon Empire rushed over immediately, how could they possibly stop this terrifying massacre? Long Xiaoyao sighed and said, how can you understand my thoughts? Stop the killings. As he spoke, he punched in Dubuzi's direction. Dubuzi snorted coldly. He didn't move at all, and just extended his palm. Suddenly, the entire sky seemed to move with his palm. The wind started to rage. A black fist of energy enlarged as it moved through the air. It collided with Dubuzi's palm. There weren't any large noises. The sky only shook. The shaking might seem very gentle, but it stopped everyone on the ground. Even the golden barrier protecting the altar started to ripple. Dubuzi roared into the skies. Following this, a blinding purplish flame rose from his body. He instantly grew in size once again, until he was more than 300 feet wide, and 1,000 meters tall. His terrifying aura pushed the 10 figures back to the ground. Some of the weaker ones were even crushed into powder. All these dead people were soul engineers. Even though they were able to utilize soul tools to enhance their fighting abilities to a level which could rival a titled Dolor, their body's toughness was incomparable to a titled Dolor's. Hence, a lot of them perished immediately after Dubuzi released his power. However, they were not the only ones who were affected by Dubuzi. Even the dragon god Dolor, Long Xiaoyao, found himself rapidly descending after Dubuzi released his power. He was in disbelief as he tried to steady his body. Dubuzi, are you crazy? You actually ignited your own fire of life. This will detonate your soul core. Dubuzi's eerie laughter vanished as he said coldly, "That's exactly what I want to do. I want to detonate my soul core and take all of you cursed people of the Sun Moon Empire down to hell with me. Listen to me, hypocrite. I am not afraid of death. I just want to see how the Sun Moon Empire can attack my homeland, the Heavenly Soul Empire, after everyone present dies with me." Ha 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 ha. Long Xiaoyao was shocked by Dubuzi's words. He had not expected Dubuzi to make such a brutal decision. There was not a single person who was not afraid of death. In fact, the stronger a person was, the likelier he or she feared death. After all, only the strong and powerful could enjoy this world. When one had attained the ultimate Dolor rank or was close to it, one could live beyond 300 years if nothing unfortunate were to happen. Because Dubuzi was the sect leader of the body sect and was responsible for protecting it, Long Xiaoyao did not expect him to choose to ignite his fire of life at this moment. One must understand that the intensity of the fire of life was proportional to the strength of the Soul Master. As the intensity of the fire of life increased, it would become harder to douse it. Such irreversible scenarios would definitely result in the death of the Soul Master. At the same time, this would enhance the Soul Master's abilities to an unprecedented level. At that very instant when Dubuzi ignited his fire of life, his cultivation level had been forced to an ultimate Dolor's level. And as the fire continued to rage, he was about to become stronger. Because he had already ignited his fire of life, Dubuzi no longer had any reservations or worries. Once the fire of life had finished burning, it would start to disrupt his soul core. That soul core belonged to a rank 98 titled Dolor. One could only imagine how powerful the explosion would be. There were millions of lives beneath them. Once his soul core exploded, every life below them would be ravaged. From the above, it was clear why titled Dolor were strategic pillars of strength for every empire. They possessed too much destructive power to be allowed to turn crazy and wreak havoc as they pleased. As soul tool technology improved in the Sun Moon Empire, some of them had started to disregard the abilities of soul masters. However, Dubuzi was about to give them a timely reminder of the invincible power of soul masters by burning his fire of life. At this moment, he was like an unbelievably powerful, unstoppable Class 10 stationary soul cannon shell. Even though Hu Yuhao was very far from them, he noticed the change the moment Dubuzi started burning his fire of life. When he saw Dubuzi grow to about 1,000 meters tall, Hu Yuhao became very worried. "I can't believe he's actually planning to do this. Now it makes perfect sense why he would hand the secrets of the body over to me. He didn't want it to vanish with his death." Hu Yuhao gave a bitter smile. Tang Wutong frowned. Doesn't he know that his actions will end millions of innocent lives? His really? Hu Yuhao sighed before replying, the collapse of the empire must have hit him really hard. Even Xu Qianran probably didn't expect his grand sacrificial ceremony to become the stage for Dubuzi's self-sacrifice. Hu Yuhao really wanted to stop Dubuzi from sacrificing his life, but he did not possess the ability to do so. No one present could stop a rank 98 transcendent Dolor who had ignited his fire of life. Even the Darkness Holy Dragon, an ultimate Dolor, would not be able to do so. However, Hu Yuhao's expression suddenly changed as he recalled something. "Wait a minute. Something's wrong. I have to head over there right away. Wutong, I need you to wait for me here." Following which, Hu Yuhao let go of Wutong's hand as he got ready to move towards Dubuzi. Tang Wutong grabbed hold of him and asked frantically, "What are you doing? Do you want to die?" There are so many powerful individuals from the Sun Moon Empire over there. There's no way we can stop Dubuzi. Hui Yuhao replied anxiously, "No, I'm not going to try and stop him. I understand that his move is too extreme. But Dubuzi has missed something important." It took a while before Tang Wutong understood what Hui Yuhao meant. "Are you thinking what I am thinking?" Hui Yuhao nodded fervently. "Yes. I'm referring to the Holy Ghost Church. They are well versed in many dark arts which pertain to souls and the dead spirits. If Dubuzi were to detonate his own soul core, it would cause an unprecedented massacre. This catastrophic outcome would only strengthen the Holy Ghost Church. If they were to acquire millions of souls, I have no idea how strong they will become. That's why I must make my way over there to either purify or lead the souls away if an explosion is to happen. But this is too dangerous." Tang Wutong naturally understood Hui Yuhao's considerations, but she did not loosen her grip on him. Hui Yuhao turned his head and gazed deeply into Tang Wutong's eyes. Suddenly, he hugged her tightly before giving her an intense kiss. Tang Wutong was taken aback by his kiss. Following which, the strong golden seal shone before tossing Hui Yuhao away from her. "Wutong, wait for me." Aided by the momentum given by the seal, Hui Yuhao transformed into Comet as he flew towards the southern region of Radiant City. "As a man, there are certain things I must do. If I were to allow the Holy Ghost Church to become even stronger, an unbelievably scary future awaits all of us. In fact, it would be even worse than the Sun Moon Empire taking over the world." And that was why he had to go. Seeing how Dubuzi could no longer be persuaded from his course of action, Long Xiaoyao shook his head as his body expanded against the wind. He transformed into a dragon that was more than 500 meters long. Following which, he swung his dragon tail towards Dubuzi aggressively. Long Xiaoyao was enraged by Dubuzi's intent for heedless killing. He knew he had to stop him and could not allow him to detonate his soul core. Meanwhile, at the Sun Moon sacrificial altar, Xu Qianran appeared to have regained his calm. He slowly strolled down from the 7th floor to Ju Zi's side. Following which, he raised his hand and said calmly, "Get ready to activate the high-energy beam." "Your Majesty." A tall old man with graying hair walked towards Xu Qianran with an unwilling look on his face. Xu Qianran looked at him seriously before saying, "Dean, I am the leader of our country. If I can't even protect my own people, I will have failed as our leader. Without my people or their support, there is no point in me being king or emperor. There will be no point in conquering this world at all." The old man replied in a deep voice, "But once we activate the high-energy beams, everything we have been preparing for will go down the drain. We will probably be unable to recover all the accumulated energies for a couple of decades. We would have no choice but to terminate our research." Xu Qianran gave him a cold stare as he replied, "Dean, do you think I don't know what is more important? Looking at how things are, we have no choice but to set whatever research we are doing aside for now." The old man argued, "But there's still the Holy Ghost Church. They belong to our empire, and would probably be very helpful when it comes to reducing costs and damages if they were willing to put in 100% and help us." Xu Qianran burst into laughter, but his eyes were still ice cold. "You want them to lend us a hand? If they were willing, they would have done so long ago. After all, the Darkness Holy Dragon is an exception. He was never fully controlled by the Holy Ghost Church. And where is the Holy Ghost Church now? They are waiting. Waiting for a chance. They can't wait for Dubuzi to detonate his soul core and kill everyone. When that happens, imagine how powerful they will become with their newly acquired millions of souls. Do you think I would still be the leader of this country when that happened? Dean, you can rest assured that your research will be set aside once they take over the Sun Moon Empire. They will definitely not allow powerful weapons to exist and threaten them. Now go on and set everything up." The old man went silent. As he looked up and stared at the battle between the giant and the huge dragon, he felt a deep sense of resentment within him. Nonetheless, he relented with a long sigh before leaving. "Your Majesty." Ju Zi purred as she grabbed his hand. Xu Qianran appeared to be at ease as he held her hand tightly. It seemed as though everything was under control. He was not making any preparations for any form of an emergency evacuation. However, Du Zi's hand was in pain as he tightened his grip. As the battle in the air grew increasingly intense, Du Buzi was somehow able to suppress the darkness holy dragon under the enhancement from his burning fire of life. However, the battles around them had paused. The four transcendent Dolor who had been creating chaos had long disappeared. It was impossible to catch a transcendent Dolor who was determined to escape unless one had an intricate plan set up in advance. The purple flames on Du Buzi's body were getting very intense. Long Xiaoyao arched his head upwards and released a dragon's roar. The sound of his roar tore through the sky, as though he was calling for something. However, no matter how he roared, there did not seem to be a returning echo. As the battle raged on, the flames on Du Buzi's body burned brighter and stronger. The sky seemed to be turning back and forth under the interchanging streaks of black and purple. The slaughter which was going on at ground level previously and the battle which was going on in the sky had created mass hysteria amongst the public. Fortunately, a huge army had been drafted especially for the grand sacrificial ceremony. Under the control of the army and their soul tools, the four transcendent Dolor had been chased away, and the situation had temporarily been transformed for the better. However, in that short period of time, tens of thousands of civilians had already been killed. In the distance. "Mother, are we really not going to go there and help Uncle?" Zhong Liwu, who was dressed in a full-length black robe, asked the pale Yi Shishui silently. "Of course not. The tens of thousands of souls which we managed to reap earlier are barely enough to replenish what was depleted from the Death God Pagoda previously. Why should we stop Du Buzi? Long Xiaoyao is a smart man. He knows when to give up and leave." Yi Shishui gave the plainest reply possible. It was impossible to see any emotions in her eyes. "I understand." Zhong Liwu did not dare to add anything else. Even though he was the actual supreme leader of the Holy Ghost Church, everyone knew who called the shots. As she watched the battle which was going on in midair, Yi Shishui remained extremely calm. A faint blood-red color occasionally flickered in her eyes. A large group of powerful cultivators from the Holy Ghost Church stood behind them. They had all gathered here and waited silently for instructions not long after Du Buzi had emerged. Yi Shishui definitely knew what her son was worried about. Her son feared that Long Xiaoyao might be angered by what had just unfolded. She also knew that Long Xiaoyao was calling for her. If she joined in the battle and helped Long Xiaoyao subdue Du Buzi, he might just be unable to detonate his soul core. However, why must I stop him? The deaths of millions of civilians would only be beneficial for the Holy Ghost Church. As a person who was only concerned about her interests, she would definitely not stop Du Buzi. Long Xiaoyao. Long Xiaoyao. As the battle grew in intensity, the flames on Du Buzi's body seemed to become material. Long Xiaoyao could no longer do anything about his mad attacks. All he could do was to try and stop Du Buzi from descending. "Long Xiaoyao, do you really think you can stop me? Stop shouting for her. Since I have dared to come today, I have already thought of everything. She won't be coming to help you." Du Buzi let out a burst of eerie laughter. Long Xiaoyao was taken aback by his words. He had a strange realization that Du Buzi might not be as mad as he seemed. "Du Buzi, why must you do this? Do you really think you can kill Xu Tianran like this? He has so many Class 9 soul engineers defending him. Even if your self-destruction is super strong, it won't be enough to kill him. The shield above the Sun-Moon sacrificial altar alone is enough to shave off half of the impact from your self-destruction. Slaughtering millions of lives will only do the Holy Ghost Church good. You are just helping them become stronger. It's not too late to stop. I can still help you to douse your burning fire of life and help you leave. How does that sound?" Long Xiaoyao was very clear with his words, but Du Buzi continued to laugh. In fact, he seemed very happy about something. Suddenly, Du Buzi's voice became very soft. His words could only reverberate within Long Xiaoyao's ears. "My old pal, of course, I know what you're talking about. We have both lived for over 200 years. Why would I not be able to consider that things that you've said? Our thinking is just very different. I can see that you are still a person with a heart. If not, you would never have turned up here. The truth is my action is but a small part of the entire operation. Do you really think I want to die? Of course not. But I have already sustained certain injuries which I cannot recover from back when I fended off the invaders from the Sun Moon Empire previously. I am already too old. Just like Mu En, who was just living out his life after sustaining a serious injury, I can feel my own abilities deteriorating every day. Let's not talk about becoming an ultimate Dolor. I'm not even confident of remaining a transcendent Dolor in a few years' time. I have at most 10 more years to live. 10 years is a long enough time for a normal human. But for people like us, it is nothing. That's why I would rather not have these 10 years. The most heroic death for a soul master is to die before the eyes of the public. In fact, I have already won. Do you know that? Even though Long Xiao was staring at Du Buzi and listening to his words, both of them were still entangled in battle. However, there was no hatred or anger in his eyes. What remained was nothing but sorrow and melancholy. Is another person from my times really about to die? It was almost as if Du Buzi had finally found someone to converse with him as he continued. My appearance today is part of a carefully crafted plan. There's no chance of me dying in vain. In my eyes, since I am about to die, the rules no longer mean anything. Do you really think the millions of lives below us can be so easily taken away? You have spent a fair bit of time in the Sun Moon Empire. Do you really not know what trump cards they're hiding under their sleeves? They will definitely try their best to protect their people. If not, the millions of deaths would shake the foundation of Shu Qianran's rule. But whatever trump cards they deploy will most definitely take a lot out of them. In the future, when they have to face the other nations, they will definitely be a lot weaker. This is my first objective. As long as Shu Qianran isn't mentally retarded, he will definitely help me achieve it. My second objective is naturally you. I knew Yi Shishui would definitely not come after starting this commotion. However, I was sure you would. I was purposely shouting around in that manner previously to attract someone else's attention. Do you really think I still don't know you well enough? You must have a reason for staying around her. I don't want to know the exact reason. All I know is that now that you are on the opposing side, you won't feel too good after I die. I don't think you can deny that, right? My third objective pertains to Yi Shishui. She must be lurking around somewhere with her disciples and grand-disciples, waiting to pounce in and reap the fruits of our hard work. The sheer number of souls from the dead people would be too enticing for them to turn down. I have considered how they would not be able to resist this temptation before deciding to do what I am doing now. I have now successfully drawn Yi Shishui and her underlings here. The greed of evil soul masters will be their downfall. Once I am done with my 3 objectives, I can allow my old body to die. I am not the only one here this time around. Once my objectives have been achieved, the remaining ones will naturally be accomplished by the others. I have already attracted enough firepower, right? Ha 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 ha. After hearing Du Buzi's words, Long Xiaoyao became very quiet. Du Buzi has really drafted a very well-crafted plan this time round. He has managed to predict how we would all act. Shu Qianran, Yi Shishui, and me. All of us. It was because he had already known how they would all act based on how events would unfold that he was willing to give up his life to gather everyone here. But then what is his true objective? Long Xiaoyao, I have always been very easygoing and carefree all my life. Failing to defeat Mu En is one of the biggest regrets in my life. However, I have managed to live longer than him. In the future, if you want to describe me as a despicable person, I will gladly accept it as praise from you. Time is almost up. I want you to help me see how big an explosion I can create with my abilities. Oh yes, I actually have a 4th objective. I want to assassinate Shu Qianran. No matter whether I succeed or not, I want to try. If not, how can I rest in peace, right? After finishing his sentence, Du Buzi suddenly burst into a fit of mad laughter. Following which, his body suddenly froze in mid-air. It was as if the entire sky had frozen, and all the energy pulses stopped at this very instant. Even Long Xiaoyao was no exception. Just as Long Xiaoyao's eyes widened in shock, a dense layer of black started to vanish in the next instant. A mysterious ring of silver-white light started to appear around him. That ring of white light rubbed and collided against the static space around it vigorously. Dubuzi revealed a sly smile as he took a last look at Long Xiaoyao. Following which, his 1,000-meter-tall body shrank rapidly towards the center of his stomach. At that very instant, it was as if a black hole had formed in the middle of the sky. Copious amounts of natural chi of heaven and earth gravitated towards the center of the black hole. Because of how suddenly Dubuzi's body had shrunk, everyone present, including the millions of civilians of the Sun Moon Empire, felt as if they were being sucked by something in the air. The tens of thousands of people that were closer to the Sun Moon sacrificial altar were even lifted into the air by the force of attraction. Their feet left the ground as they floated a couple of meters into the air. Just when some of these people started to regain their composure, chaos broke loose again as screams and shouts could be heard everywhere as they tried to struggle against the force of attraction. Dubuzi had vanished, and what had replaced him was a huge piece of crystal, entirely jade green, and radiating a jade-green glow onto its pitch-black surroundings. It seemed as though it could swallow all the darkness around it. Even the silver glow from Long Xiaoyao's body was being consumed by it. Long Xiaoyao revealed a bitter smile. "You are truly remarkable." He could sense this soul core had been enhanced to the level that belonged to an ultimate Dolor. The only difference was how an ultimate Dolor had 2 soul cores, and Dubuzi only had 1. Dubuzi had burned all of his power and energy, including his soul. At this very instant, everything turned silent. But it was merely the calm before the impending storm. Is it coming now? Everyone stopped breathing as they looked up into the sky. They could sense that a catastrophe was about to hit them. However, at this very instant, the air in the direction of Radiant City suddenly became illuminated. For gentle white beams of light shot up into the sky without any warning. These 4 pillars of light were initially not particularly noticeable. They were only as thick as water pails, but they immediately began to expand at an unbelievable rate. Very soon, these 4 beams had a diameter of over 100 meters as they pierced deep into the sky, their powerful light unimpeded by the gray clouds. The energy bound within the jade-green soul core seemed to be agitated by the white light, as it started to emit a low humming sound. The space around the soul core started to show signs of cracking. This video will end here.